Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back, my friends, to podcast 49 of 2019. Almost 50 this year. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can tweet me at OBKiev. Tweet us at The Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / The Odds Breakers. This episode's being brought to you by uwager.lv. For a 100% sign-up bonus, please visit uwager. Use the promo code ODDSBreakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, become a member for $17.99 a month. You can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. For $2 more, you can have all that and the podcast a little early by becoming a Patreon subscriber. If nothing else, we have free plays. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. And as you know, we don't just send out free plays. We send out betting spots, look-ahead spots, let-down spots, misleading final scores, sharp line movement, fantasy stuff, all over the board. So make sure you're a free picks newsletter subscriber. Also, we are going to be posting more and more videos on YouTube. We had 2 winners for you last week in the video, so that was awesome. And so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just started building that up recently. Hopefully it becomes something, but YouTube's getting pretty big. If you're a capper and like to get involved with the Odds Breakers, get your name out there a little bit, please visit us, contact us from the website, or just message the Odds Breakers on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. All right, well, we have a great show for you today because we have plays. We have information, sharp movement. The only problem is that I'm going solo today, so you're going to have to deal with me and only me. You know, it's funny. We had a guest supposed to come on, and that guest got sick. And then we had a backup guest that was supposed to come on, and that backup guest got sick. I guess there's some fevers going around lately. My kids actually all had it. One currently has the flu, cold, I don't know what it is, slight fever, but nothing too serious. But either way, I prepared a very good show for you today because college football week 4 is a great time to sports bet. And it is also a great time to find some value within some of these lines because there is a lot of differences from people's power ratings all over the board, as well as a lot of these Vegas lines. The format today, I'm going to be covering some of the big games, doing some previews to the matchups. It's going to be kind of sprinkled in all over the place a little bit with the sharp line movement when I discuss it. And then we'll do college first, then we'll do our college plays, then we'll do NFL, our NFL plays, and then finally the sharp line movement, and hopefully give you some good information. So the only game on Thursday, we have a college football game, Houston versus Tulane. This thing went up to 5. It started out barely at 2.5. De'Aaron King, obviously, you saw him play against Washington State, and well, he didn't play that well against Washington State. They have a new coach over there, Dana Holgorsen. Tulane, on the other hand, seems to be the sharp side on this one. We might have a play on this, but it was, let's just say this play was given out a long time ago, if we did, wink, wink, on Sunday. Friday, we have some games. Utah versus USC is the big one, obviously. Utah, there's money all over the place. The number's been bouncing between 3.5 and 4. Obviously, USC is on their second string quarterback, and he's a true freshman. The problem with USC is under their coach Clay Helton, they just can't get it together here what an interesting spot they're in after losing in overtime to Brigham Young. Losing Daniels, their quarterback, was bad. Slovis is starting, like I said, the freshman. USC in their 2 games against Fresno State and Stanford, 3 games against BYU, only averages 6.4 yards per play. Well, that's actually not even that bad. 6.4 yards, even though 2 of those games wasn't against Power 5 opponents. You figure it'd be a little bit more. But they gave up 5.6 yards per play, and Stanford's not that good. So, USC is an interesting team. The thing is that they have some athletes, and that's what maybe is keeping that line a little bit lower. But how the hell can you bet on Clay Helton right there? Utah is looked at as possibly the best team in the Pac-12 next to Oregon, and Washington's right up there too. So that's going to be interesting. I personally do not have a play on this. I'll give you a lean. My lean is Utah -3.5. As you know, Air Force versus Boise State, we do have a play on that if you're listening to Monday night / Tuesday morning's podcast. And that brings us right into Saturday. Michigan State versus Northwestern is an early game. Michigan State's kind of in I believe it's a revenge spot, because I think Michigan State lost this game last year. Looking back at my numbers, it looks like, yes, they did lose to Northwestern at home by 10 points, and now they're laying 9.5 with essentially the same team at Northwestern. Seems a little bit fishy to me, doesn't it? Doesn't that seem a little bit fishy? But what I do have to say about Michigan State, it really stunk to see this team, which is supposedly one of the better teams in the Big Ten, lose to the Pac-12 last week.
That's terrible.
Next game, Ohio State is against Miami of Ohio. Brutal. I don't think that Miami of Ohio is going to be too excited to go out there and get their butts kicked. Ohio State, like I said before, has been so much better. Justin Fields is a serious Heisman candidate, but let's just kind of hold all that talk until they get into the Big Ten a little bit. But a 39-point spread is pretty much telling you that they're kind of up there with the Georgia range, the Alabama range, and the Clemson range. So be wary of that. They are way up there. And then you have LSU at Vanderbilt laying 23.5. Vanderbilt doesn't look that good to me. If I'm going to lean on that one, I'm going to say LSU. Vanderbilt just they don't look nearly as good as I thought they were going to be when they came into the season. Joe Burrow, man, I'm almost wondering if Ohio State should have kept him ahead of Haskins, but obviously he made the right choice in going to Ed Orgeron and LSU, and they have a humming offense now. Ever since they pulled Joe Brady, paid him a ton of money to come over there to help coordinate. Over at LSU, he brought some new plays, brought some RPOs for Joe Burrow, run-pass options there. Pretty awesome. He's doing a very good job, and you wonder if LSU, like I said before, is going to try to compete with Bama. My lean to this is LSU minus the 23.5. Nebraska at Illinois. This spread's kind of going all over the place. It's back up to 13.5 now for Nebraska. I'm going to wait, and if this thing goes past 14, I might be a player on Illinois due to the big look-ahead spot for Nebraska hosting Ohio State. And remember, Nebraska did really well against Ohio State last year, coming back in that game. They covered the heck out of that spread. Temple versus Buffalo. We're going to talk a little bit about that game a little bit later. Old Dominion versus Virginia. I didn't make a play on Old Dominion, but Virginia is in a huge sandwich spot right now because they just beat Florida State at home. Students charged the field, and now they're going to be looking ahead to Notre Dame. Okay? And they're big Notre Dame fans right now, I guarantee you, because Notre Dame's playing Georgia. Western Michigan is going to play Syracuse. This line keeps getting a little bit lower. Western Michigan is plus 5.5 now. Was plus 6 earlier today. So looks like some money's coming in on Western Michigan right there. Syracuse has looked pretty bad this year so far. Let's see if they can put up some points against a division, well, not a lower conference, let's just say, group of 5 team like Western Michigan. Remember, Michigan State put up a bunch of points against Western Michigan. Speaking of Michigan, let's talk a little bit about my Badgers. They are hosting Michigan, and they are laying 3.5 points. And before the season started, they were 6-point dogs at home. So 9 points of difference. I guess you can chalk that up to people downgrading Michigan by 4 or 5 points and upgrading Wisconsin by 4 or 5 points. But as you know, I was already high on Wisconsin. I'm just going to be completely honest with you right now. My power ratings have Wisconsin by about a point. Straight power ratings, but I don't know what to expect out of Michigan here. I do know that they get their left tackle Runyon back. I've heard that they're getting Donovan Peoples-Jones back. So those are some key players. I love left tackles, and the offensive line, very important, as we always know. It all starts there, and Peoples-Jones is a very dangerous receiver. There is still no confirmation on this, but Bucky looked really good, and like I said before, they had a lot of internal problems last year, as you know, and a ton of injury problems. The question for me is, will they be able to stop the read option from Shea Patterson that ripped them up last year? And will they be able to run the football in Michigan? Because if those two things work, Wisconsin's going to win this game by 4 points or more. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't played this game, but if it goes to 4, I will probably be a small player on the Michigan side. And it's just because there's just been too much of an overreaction to their Army game, in my opinion. Like I said before, Army did the same thing to Oklahoma. And, when there's value, there's value. I have to be even bet against my favorite teams. Jack Cohn hasn't proved anything in big games yet. They beat 2 tomato cans. Central Michigan is one of the worst teams in football. South Florida hasn't showed much better, So not super excited about them facing a big team yet, but this is going to be a big test. I think, like I said, if they stop that read option, they win this game in the trenches. Jack Cohn has time to pass and to feel good. Wisconsin now has some weapons with Cephas and Taylor catching passes. Now Jonathan Taylor's also catching passes. So really excited about this next game coming up. One thing that I am worried about is Scott Nelson is out for a safety. Well, will the Badgers need it? Can the Badgers get that pass rush that we need? Bond's going to have a huge game coming up the side, playing that outside linebacker edge rusher position. Isaiah Green-May on the other side. They're going to have to get to Shea Patterson, shake him up a little bit, and make sure that he does not feel confident in this game. I really like the Badgers secondary. I love Rashad Wildgoose in the slot. I love Darren Harrell. Fayon Hicks is amazing. This Badger team is really stacked. Garrett Rand is a beast on the defensive end. Yeah, man. Isaiah Loudermilk's actually healthy for once. This is going to be an interesting game. But like I said, this could be a very low-scoring game, as you see with the total of 43. So I lean to Michigan at 3.5. But if this gets to 4, I will be a small player on Michigan. Oh, before when I mentioned Taylor, there's a receiver named Taylor, A.J. Taylor, and he's going to have to have a good game too, coming out the side. Some of those quick routes, So we'll see what happens if he can catch that quick slant. That's going to be an important part of this game as well, in my opinion. But, they have to throw to establish the run against a team like Michigan, because Jonathan Taylor, he'll get stuffed against the best teams when they stack that box. So you have to have some good quarterback play in order to open up the defense a little bit. The good thing about this game, Jonathan Taylor's now catching passes, like I said before. This is going to be very interesting. I really like their tight end, Jake Ferguson, there too. Michigan, on the other hand, True Wilson's going to have to get going to beat the Badgers if they want to control the game on the ground like Karan Higdon did last year against them. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Their defense has to step it up here. I think Devin Gill is going to have a big game. Kalecki Hudson is going to have a big game. Donovan Jeter at the nose is just going to have to take the center and guard out so the linebackers can be free and get over there to make those tackles against Taylor. That's key. This game is going to be an interesting one to watch in the trenches here. But Michigan was looked at as a top 6 team before this season started. So, like I said, this is a huge line move coming in. Huge. And this could be an overreaction just due to the certain teams that, like I said, each one played. Moving on, let's look at Missouri. South Carolina is interesting. Missouri's laying 9.5. Apparently, South Carolina is not looked at as too good of a team. And I know they just played Alabama, but you wonder if they got better by playing Alabama. I have a slight lean to South Carolina in this one, but I don't know too much about them. I know they're on Helinski, their next quarterback. We'll see what happens in this game. West Virginia versus Kansas, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I gave this out at under 54, and it's down to 49 now. Huge line value, and this is a possible buyback for me. I'm not sure if I want to buy back at 49, though, because I still have this game lower at 46, 47-ish. So that's why it's important to get these lines early, so you can get ahead of the line values. You can get ahead of the professional bettors moving those lines. It's really important. Next game, Oregon at Stanford. Oregon is a 10-point road favorite, 10.5 at Stanford. All you really need to know here is 2 things. Oregon, they're a very good team, but they're not the best Oregon team I've ever seen. But this is probably the worst Stanford team that I've seen in 20 years. One thing I do know about Stanford is, though, as a home dog, they are 9-0 against the spread and 8-1 straight up their last 9 games as a home dog. Doesn't happen that often. But this is, I'll tell you this is all up to Shaw right here. If he covers this spread or makes this a close game, this is all riding on the coach. I'll tell you this, a lot of people have downgraded Shaw in their power ratings of coaches. Clemson laying 41 at Charlotte. I'll tell you right now, Charlotte is a better team than people think. I wonder how interested Clemson is going to be on blowing out yet another team before they get into the ACC. It's got to be tiring blowing some of these poor guys out, in my opinion. It's not like they get any points for doing it, because they really don't. Notre Dame versus Georgia. And I am shocked, but this thing is at 14, and it's almost up to 14.5 right now, past that big key number, that second double-digit key number of 14. This is crazy to me. I am shocked. The 2 top 9 teams are like this. And when I say top 9, my power ratings ain't that far off from the AP poll here. I'm just going to say, as you know, I have Georgia still at 3, but I have Notre Dame at 10. So I don't have them that low. As a matter of fact, I have this game itself 10.5, I believe. Do the math here. 11. I have it 11.5. I thought this game was going to go down to around 10. I'm shocked it didn't. I'm shocked that this is going past the 14. This is football. Anything can happen. Notre Dame has some athletes. Yes, they did replace a ton of defensive line. Georgia's strength is in the trenches this year. Jake Fromm looks awesome. But Notre Dame knows what they're facing this year. Notre Dame made it to the finals last year. They got beat hard by Clemson, but let's not overreact to that game either. Ian Book is a very serviceable quarterback. I would not be shocked if Notre Dame came out throwing punches. They know that they are 14-point dogs. They know that they are disrespected coming into this SEC game. You know, a lot of times you get a little bit of an SEC bias just due to the media, how ESPN owns the SEC network and things like that. And I'm not going to lie, the SEC is the best conference in all of football. But sometimes these teams get a little bit too hyped, and then all of a sudden you realize they can come down to earth just like everybody else. Any given Saturday, Notre Dame is dogs by way too much here, in my opinion. I think the game should, even though my power ratings say 11.5, I still think the game should be around a 10.5 point spread. If I'm making this spread, I'm making it 10.5. It's a big game. Texas A&M against Auburn. So I like Auburn this year. I think they're running the ball well. The freshman quarterback, Nix, is doing very good, but we haven't seen him face a power team on the road yet. I was tempted to take a nibble at the +4, but I'll tell you right now, Texas A&M is so good at home. Mond has been there, done that. I am not so sure I want to do that, but this would be a very interesting game to watch and to learn from for some of these games in the future. I think that Auburn still looks like they can throw those little teams around like nothing. Auburn's a top 12 team to me. All right, enough of that quick preview and my leans. I'm going to talk now about my plays for college football week 4, and we're going to give you 3 of them. Kind of like normal. We're going to start out with Appalachian State versus North Carolina. Appalachian State is 4-point dogs. Well, I think it's actually down to 3 now. 3-point dogs at North Carolina. Well, everyone's been saying return of the MAC. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was return of the MAC for the first 2 games, but now it's going to be back to fading the MAC. Okay. Mac Brown, he did very good his first 2 games, but we have to remember that he has a true freshman quarterback in Sam Howell. Okay. And they were outgained against Miami and benefited from playing an injured South Carolina team that doesn't look that great. Okay. Remember that. Then they got to face Wake Forest and couldn't cover the spread. Now they get to face a top 3 group of 5 team in Appalachian State who returned 74% of their production from last year, including their quarterback, and outgained their opponents last year by 2 yards per play. That's pretty big right there. So they also have a very experienced quarterback in Zach Thomas. He's going to be itching to show off some of his skills. Appalachian State kind of got screwed in their bowl game last year. They placed them against another group of 5 team, blew them out, and now they finally get to play North Carolina here. Mac Brown hasn't even gotten to his own recruits yet. They're still in high school, okay, or freshmen. So there's way too much hype on this North Carolina team. They also have Clemson next week on deck. They could be looking past Appalachian State a little bit here, looking ahead to Clemson, okay? Shit's about to get real.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
There's value on the Mountaineers for not blowing out a much improved Charlotte team. They expected App State to blow them out, but this Charlotte team, in my opinion, is a lot better than they were before. You saw them beat Kansas, I believe it was. No, sorry, they blew out UMass last week. This is an opportunity for Appalachian State to make a statement against one of their two only Power 5 opponents. I have App State winning this game outright, okay? I have App State winning it by 2 points. That's what my power ratings say, is Appalachian State by 2 points. This is a spot for them to shine here. So I like them for 3 stars plus 4, and I like them for a star on the money line. One of my favorite bets. The next one we are going to get into is Western Michigan versus Syracuse. As you know, Syracuse is about a 5.5 favorite, and the over-under is at 65.5. Last year, this game went to 97 points. Both teams play very fast. Now, Western Michigan lost this game 55-42, and since they returned 90% of their production, they all remember that very, very well. After 3 games, the Broncos are averaging 7.9 yards per play, and that's counting their Michigan State mess up, okay? They give up 5.8 yards per play, which won't keep opponents completely out of the game. Syracuse, on the other hand, has had a tough start to the season, losing to Maryland, allowing 63 points, and Clemson allowing 41 points. The Orange really need a big bounce back here to save face. Every Syracuse game was a blowout, and they still averaged 78 plays per game. Last year, Syracuse, I believe, was the second fastest team to Wake Forest and played 84 plays per game. Western Michigan was at 76 plays per game last year in the slow-playing MAC, and they're also involved in a lot of blowouts this year. I think this game's going to be high-flying, just like it was last year, how they scored 97 points. I think 65.5 points is too low. This is a 3-star play. I'm taking the over 65.5. Book it.
Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
Yeah, no. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
I also lean Western Michigan, the plus the 5.5, 6 points, whatever. Just so you know. All right, and the last play is Temple versus Buffalo. Buffalo, a home dog, getting 14 points. Remember when I said that I like to bet those overreactions? Well, this is a spot to find one. Temple beat Maryland last week, so they are a little high on their horses right now. Temple returned good production, and Buffalo ranked one of the last for returning production, but we can't forget that the Owls are with a new coach named Rod Carey, who previously coached the NIU Huskies, who never tried to blow anybody out of the water in his coaching career. I've got to give Buffalo a pass for that last game against Liberty because they had 2 road games in a row, end up blowing the Penn State game after outgaining them. Buffalo was only outgained to Liberty by about 25 points, yet they lost that game in a misleading score by like 17 or something like that. Buffalo, it still has that great coach. The kids were young, but Lance Leopold is too good of a coach for this big as a spread at home. They should fix their efficiency problems, I think, because that's what it is. They're efficient. They can drive, but they can't score. And they definitely have a shot to do it at home here. They had those 2 road games in a row. This is a letdown spot for Temple for beating Maryland when Maryland was all hyped up. And just to let you know, this is not just a letdown spot, but this is also a foot-long meat lovers grand slam sandwich spot for next week because Temple faces their old coach, Jeff Collins, at Georgia Tech. All right? That's what they're thinking of. Jeff Collins left them last year for Georgia Tech. These kids have this game circled to have a big game this week. This is a sandwich. We have a live dog right here with Buffalo. And heck, I might even be on the Owls next week against Georgia Tech. But this week in the sandwich, I have to take the 14 points. It's also really doesn't measure out in my power ratings. Having Temple should be a road favorite by a lot less than 14 points. It should be around 7 or 8 points in my opinion. So I love Buffalo here, and I love the sprinkle on the money line as well. 2-star premium play. Now it is time to get into some NFL games this week. So Thursday night we have the Tennessee Titans at Jacksonville Jaguars with Gardner Minshew. I wonder if he's going to be wearing his 70s outfit. But anyways, the Titans, they are only 1.5 point favorites at Jacksonville. It was a little higher the week before. Now you have another overreaction. I don't know if it's justified or not, from losing against the Colts. Okay? Now, the Colts are a pretty good team. You know, I even though they don't have their quarterback, Andrew Luck, the Colts still did a good job and have a great defense. You know, people tend to forget that. Okay? You know, so they went to the Titans and they beat them, and the Colts just know how to beat that team. Now the Titans are going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville has the quarterback Minshew when Foles went out, and you know, they have a player that's looking to be traded. One of their top cornerbacks, Jalen Ramsey, got in a fight with his coach Doug Marrone on the sidelines, and now he wants to be traded. You know, this guy has been asking for trades all last year as well. Not sure what I'm going to do to react to this, but I think this game stinks, okay, for a Thursday night football game. I personally do not want to touch a side in this. And the 39.5, I honestly have to lean to the under here because in Jacksonville, they're going to try to play some defense. Tennessee's going to come in. They're going to run the ball. You know, they don't play super fast. One of these teams is not going to put up a lot of points. I don't know which one it is, though. It's just an ugly game. I have to lean to the I guess I lean to the Titans, but this game is definitely one I really don't want to get involved in at all. So before we get to the Sunday games, I just want to say that I have never these lines are an absolute disgrace to football, okay? I have never seen two teams favored by over 21 points in the NFL in my entire 17, 18 years of sports betting. I don't remember seeing this. It is absolutely crazy. Now, in Miami, we knew they'd suck. That was our first season win total that we took, I believe, back in May. It was 5. We went under 5 wins, and we also got plus money on that. That's how early we gave out Miami under to Odds Breakers members. But I am kicking myself for not taking a better look at the prop of picking Miami to go 0-16. I could have found it if I looked. It still might not happen, obviously, but you could have got 50-1, and now that prop is only at 7-2, 3.5-1. that Miami is going under. I believe their season win total adjusted now is at 1.5. This team sucks. They just made a trade with the Steelers for a first-round pick in Minkah Fitzpatrick. What is Josh Rosen thinking right now? I mean, why did they even trade for him in a second-round pick if they're not even going to use him or just see what he got? This is an absolute complete mess. You know, it really feels like the Steve Wilkes deal last year when he got fired from the Cardinals after 1 year. And now Miami hires a coach, Brian Flores, that doesn't even have a puncher's chance with a bunch of people trying to tank. You know, I just do not understand it. So what a bad situation Miami is. This team has given up already. But, you know, you're still going to see some defense and some players trying to get to another team. They're going to try to show something, but they're not going to care about the score. They're not going to care if they get scored upon. They just kind of want to look good a little bit in their matchup, and if they lose it, they lose it. You know, that's how it is. Real pathetic. And the Jets, they lost both quarterbacks, and that team wasn't that good either. I think their season win total was at 7, but it wasn't looking that good. And then now they lose Darnold. They lost C.J. Mosley for that last game. You know, the Jets' injury report's pretty bad. Now they're playing the Patriots, the best team in football, and possibly the best Patriots team that I've ever seen. I don't know what they're going to do there. They're dogs by like 22.5 points. Okay? 22.5 points. It's absolutely insane to me. You know, Adam Gase must just be like kicking himself. They have a quarterback in Falk that couldn't even make the team in Miami. These spreads over 21 points, I cannot touch them. But I'll also tell you this. Why would the Patriots and the Cowboys even want to blow these teams out? Wouldn't they just kind of want to be vanilla and just get a 20-point lead and then bench everybody in the fourth and go through the motions and run the ball? I don't see any reason why they need to showboat and risk injury here. And I think that's why there's a lot of sharp action on these unders. And I may or may not have already made those plays myself. But just to let you know, this is pathetic. I have never seen anything like it. Let's look at the Denver Broncos and the Green Bay Packers. The Denver's last 11 games actually went under, and this thing's pretty low at 42.5, around 43. I still would probably lean to the under on this one. The Packers have played defense ranks 3rd right now. They only had 2 games, of course, but the Packers defense looks better. They did give up some yards against the Vikings, though. It's just the Vikings couldn't put it away. The Vikings outgained the Packers last week, but Denver's bad. That 7.5 is fat for this low of a total, you know. So I lean to Denver Broncos plus 7.5, and maybe they're going to come into this game kind of desperate, being 0-2. But the Packers are sitting fat and happy at 2-0. The Lions play a very injured Philadelphia team coming up. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that one later. The Baltimore Ravens play the Chiefs, and this is real interesting because the Chiefs, they went to Oakland and beat the crap out of them, and Oakland's not that good, and the Chiefs beat Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is decent. I mean, good defense, and Foles did play a little bit. Minshew kicked ass, but Kansas City still covered. But Baltimore played Miami and Arizona. You know, the worst teams in football. So, I mean, I don't know. Well, the Jets might be the worst in Arizona now without a quarterback, but close. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what Baltimore is yet. The team seems to play pretty fast. You have a total of 55. You have Kansas City laying 6.5. Well, then this game happened last year in December, the Chiefs only beat them by 3 points, and the total went to 51. So I lean to the over on this one, but I don't know what to do with the side here. It's not enough information to make for me to make a decision on this one. But that's a pretty high total right there. It's at 52 right now. Maybe it went down a little bit, but pretty high total. Probably nothing I'm going to get invested in. Lean to the over. Now, if that thing drops to 50 or below, then I probably will play the over. But 52, a little bit high for me for the NFL. The Bengals, 0-2 against the Bills. Bengals looked terrible last game. Like pretty good against Seattle the first game. Probably just kind of schemes, execution, game plan in the first half. Then Seattle turned it up. But you got a Buffalo Bills team laying 6 points right now. And, I like Buffalo. They look a lot better. They're kind of playing with some swag now. But Cincinnati's desperate, kind of a dangerous spot. We'll see what happens in this game. Atlanta playing the Colts. Atlanta played their asses off last week on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. The Colts are kind of coasting right now. Another very interesting game. I lean to the Colts minus 1.5 personally. I'm still higher on the Colts than others. Oakland Raiders getting faded hard. Minnesota Vikings are now up to 9-point favorites in this one. Kirk Cousins passing terribly. Terrible throws. Yet the Vikings have a great running game. Cousins just can be a little bit better. This team could be really, really dangerous. I love Zimmer. But it's 9 points against a pissed off Raiders team. Ugh. I lean Minnesota. I do. Even though it's 9 points, I lean Minnesota right there. Jets against the Patriots. We already talked about that pathetic line of 22.5. Miami versus Cowboys is at 21.5 currently. The Giants at Tampa Bay. The Giants is now starting Daniel Jones. Will it spark the team? Does it matter? Tampa Bay looks improved as long as Jameis Winston's not throwing interceptions. They're good, which makes it hard for me to make a play because they're either going to be good or bad. It's not like anything you can kind of trust to be in the middle. This line tells me that Jameis is going to be good. Probably stay away. The Saints at the Seahawks. Seahawks laying 4.5 points on the injured Saints team. That looks like a 4.5 or probably a 5-point downgrade from Drew Brees to Teddy Bridgewater. That's pretty big of a downgrade. I don't say I disagree with it, though. Seattle's a tough place to play and lean to the Seahawks. Texans versus the Chargers. Might talk a little bit about that one during our plays. The Steelers versus the Niners as well. The Cleveland Browns are dogs at home against the Rams. And I guess Njoku, their tight end, just broke his wrist. So that's pretty interesting. And then, of course, my Chicago Bears laying 4 points at the Redskins. The Redskins looked, they're bad. They lost to the Eagles in the second half. They were beating them in the first half. And then the Dallas Cowboys just had their way with them. And where all these paid players in the Redskins, where the hell are they? I just do not like their coach, Jay Gruden. Definitely not John Gruden. Definitely Jay Gruden. Lean to the Bears. I think they got to figure something out on offense. I think they have, though. This is a perfect game for Mitch to get his head out of his ass and get his confidence. This is the perfect game for that. And I know it's in Washington, but that's probably better. Less pressure on the road than playing in front of your own pissed off fans that's already been talking smack about you, Mitch. So you better put something up in this at this game. All right, let's get into our NFL Week 3 plays. So Houston versus the LA Chargers -3.5. The Chargers are laying at home over under 47.5. If there's one thing I like about Deshaun Watson, he's never really out of games. He always puts them back in the games. But then again, as a favorite, he doesn't really blow teams out. He's just always in the game. Doesn't matter who they're playing, strength of an opponent. You know, this team's kind of proven that they can play with the big boys. They almost beat Saints with Breeze week 1. Fantastic effort. And too bad their defense didn't hold at the end there. Now they're playing a banged up Chargers team with a bad home field advantage in LA. We know that home field advantage is not that good. My power ratings have these teams pretty close to each other, within a half point, probably a half point to the Chargers. But when you look at the Chargers' injuries on defense, you got to factor that in. You know, they're beat up. They're very beat up. Their corner, their safety, linebacker's a little bit banged up. It's not good. Okay? It's a little early to talk efficiency, but if you do look at the DVOA, the Texans still are quite a bit better than the Chargers from a DVOA standpoint. And it's because the Chargers' defenses look so bad already. Here's a stat I like. The Texans are 4-0-1 against the spread as a dog since September 30th of 2018. So a few games into 2018, they're 4-0-1 against the spread. They seem to do well as a dog. So I like the 3.5 points here. This is a 2-star premium shared. You can probably get 3.5 at -120 if you look around. I took it early at -110, but I like this play. At 3, it's a small play too, but 3.5 is what I'm looking for. Take the points. Take the Texans in this game. All right, for our next play, we have to look at Pittsburgh versus San Francisco. San Francisco's laying 7 points. When I wrote this up, I think it's 6.5 now. Over-under's at 44 points. San Francisco is flying high at 2-0, right? But what do we really know about this team? They beat Jameis Winston after he had 3 interceptions with Tampa Bay. Jameis outgained the Niners by 39 yards. And then San Fran goes and beats a terrible Bengals team with Shanahan out-coaching Zach Taylor by a lot. Now San Fran comes home to face a desperate Steelers team. Very desperate, okay? The Steelers have a decent backup quarterback in Mason Rudolph. He beat out Josh Dobbs. He looked good in preseason to me. May I add that their wide receiver, James Washington, played with Mason Rudolph in college at Oklahoma State, and they looked awesome. As a matter of fact, at one point, people were saying that Rudolph's the best quarterback and James Washington's the best receiver coming out into this draft. Now, I'm not a big Mike Tomlin guy, but this team knows how to rally around him when they're down, and they are 0-2. Now, I know it's only an 11% chance that 0-2 teams make the playoffs, but I think the Steelers have done it before. I know the Giants have, and I think this is a spot that is a buy low on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, this whole Big Ben thing, at least in the short term, could be a good thing that they're going with the younger guy because they have young receivers. Antonio Brown's gone, Le'Veon Bell's gone. At least for this game, this might be a good thing. I know I downgraded him a little bit in the power ratings, but Mason Rudolph is a very capable quarterback here. Okay, the power ratings have San Fran favored by only 4 points. That's what my power ratings have, and this line is 7, there is a double overreaction. There's a reaction against Pittsburgh that's over, too big of a reaction in my opinion, and there's a overreaction for San Fran for beating up a couple bad teams, or at least Jameis Winston was bad that game. I'm betting the 2 overreactions here. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's my big play, 3-star premium shared. Book Pittsburgh. And why don't you remember to
sprinkle that shit.
All right, the next play is Detroit versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles laying 6.5, over under 46.5. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I played this when the over under was 48. The Lions haven't lost yet. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of weird seeing Matt Stafford being the best quarterback statistically in the NFC North early, but he did play the Cardinals and a bad beat up Chargers team, bad defense that is. You know, I got to tell you, the thing that stands out to me is game plan for these coaches. What would you do if you're Matt Patricia? Philadelphia is very injured on offense. Very injured. With their wide receivers out, Alshon Jeffrey's banged up. You know, Deshaun Jackson's out a couple weeks. And Philadelphia's defensive tackles are out. But Patricia's got to run the ball there. But the Lions run it anyway. I think they rank top 8 in rushing attempts. Okay? So, I like that. I like what they're going to do with Kerryon Johnson there. You know? 60 rushing attempts the Lions have had through 2 games. That's pretty good for the NFL these days. This total feels a little bit high to me because of that. Okay? Now, the Eagles got to get this game back on track. And, you know, they lost to Atlanta. But what they need to do is protect Wentz and possibly run the ball because they lost a lot of targets there. As a matter of fact, their only ones are Nelson Aguilar, which is, he's a serviceable receiver. And they also have a rookie there, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside out of Stanford. Okay? So I think the Eagles will probably pound the ball here against the Lions as well, being that they lost a lot of targets. Alice Goddard is also out. Looking at the Eagles injury report, their linebackers are questionable. You know, later in the week, the Lions could be a play for me at plus 6.5. I'm going to wait on this and keep looking at that injury report. But what I did play was the under 48, and this thing's down to 46.5, and I still like the under there. I gave it as a 2-star premium, and I like it all the way down to 45 personally. So we're going to take the under on this game and possibly lean to the Detroit Lions at Philadelphia. All right. Well, it wouldn't be an Oddsbreakers NFL podcast without giving you a teaser to play for week 3 in the NFL. And what we're going to do is tease the Bengals from 6 all the way to 12, past the key numbers of 7 and pretty key number of 10, with Green Bay Packers laying 7.5. We're going to take them down to minus 1.5 for your teaser for NFL Week 3. I think Denver is just, they got lucky to get back into that Bears game at home. Now they got to go to Green Bay here. You know, I think that they can cover the 7.5 personally, but I really think Green Bay wins. I really think they win by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points here. But I love teasing Green Bay down to 1.5. I think it's a good spot to do it at. And take Cincinnati all the way up to 12 against the Bills, and then take the Green Bay Packers all the way to 1.5. All right, now it is time for
The Sharp Side of the Force.
The Sharp Side of the Force is brought to you by betonline.ag for a 50% sign-up bonus. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com/betonline. Terms and conditions apply. All right, get into some college sharp action. And like I say all the time, it has to be a 20% difference between ticket total and money in order for it to be a sharp play, unless there's dual action, where I will mention that as well. For totals, it has to be 30% in college. USC hosting Utah. Sharp money's on the USC at +4, a 20% difference. This is the whole home dog thing right there. Probably a lot of number grabbers there. I'm more leaning Utah, as you heard. Sharp money on Air Force at Boise State at +8, a 28% difference. I disagree with that one. Sharp money on Louisiana at Ohio at +3.5, a 28% difference. There's dual action on Old Dominion at Virginia. 97% of the money on Old Dominion. That spread went from 34 down to 28.5. I think you know why. It's a sandwich spot that we pointed out to you in our article and our podcast on Monday for Virginia. Sharp money on Toledo at Colorado State from -6 to -9.5, a 21% difference now, maybe a little buyback. New Mexico State at New Mexico, +6 down to +4.5, a 23% difference. Rivalry game. Sharp money on Ole Miss hosting Cal from +1.5 all the way through the 0 to -2.5, a 29% difference. Looks like the bettors like Ole Miss against Cal, but I'll tell you this, Cal has had their number the last few years. Sharp money on Nevada at UTEP from -13 to -14.5, a 19% difference. Past the key number of 14, the value's gone, in my opinion. Sharp money on Utah State at San Diego State from -2.5 to -4, a 27% difference. That's a road dog right there. Sorry, road favorite. Sharp totals. Louisiana Monroe at Iowa State under from 57 to 55.5, a 32% difference. Miami of Ohio versus Ohio State under 60 down to 58, a 40% difference there. I think Ohio State can lay in the number they want on Miami of Ohio. UCF versus Pittsburgh over 58 to 61, a 48% difference. Wow, that's pretty big. But it's UCF. I mean, people pound the overs in UCF games, even though it's at Pitt. Ugh. Dual action on Louisiana versus Ohio over from 65 to 66.5. 99% of the money's on the over. All right. Dual action. No, not dual action. Yep. Dual action on Appalachian State versus North Carolina over 58. 99% of the money's on the over. They expect some points this game. Nebraska versus Illinois under 63. A 33% difference there. I think that might be weather related, personally, because Nebraska and Illinois kind of can score some points, play fast. Oklahoma State versus Texas went from 69 to 73, and now it's being bought back. So it shows a 38% difference in money. I don't know. I'm not touching that under. Sharp money on Boston College versus Rutgers over went from 51 all the way to 58, and now a little bit of buyback at 58. Rutgers Sitkowski, Artur Sitkowski, starting for Rutgers this game because their other quarterback has a concussion. So maybe that kind of thwarted some of the buyback. Sharp NFL, Denver at Green Bay, +7.5, a 24% difference. Money coming in on Denver. Baltimore at Kansas City, +6.5, a 25% difference. Who's Baltimore played again? Minnesota. Sharp money on them hosting Oakland, -7.5 to -9, a 20% difference. Carolina at Arizona. Now, this number's off the boards in a lot of books because Cam's hurt, but it's coming back on around 2.5. It looks like it's getting hammered up to 3 here pretty quickly. 34% difference. Carolina's aside. You know, Cam's been so bad, it actually ranks lower than Trubisky right now, that I'm not even sure if Kyle Allen's a downgrade for Carolina here. You know, that's interesting. I'm going to think about that one. New Orleans at Seattle. New Orleans at +4.5, a 27% difference. Yuck. Teddy Bridgewater starting. Houston at LA Chargers. Sharp money is on Houston, +3.5, about a 20% difference. Sharp money on Pittsburgh at San Francisco. Drove it from +7 down to +6.5, a 20% difference. Sharp money on Washington hosting the Bears. Chicago Bears at +4, a 24% difference. Home dog, Washington. NFL sharp totals. Detroit versus Philly from 49 down to 46. There's dual action on that one. New York Jets at New England from 48 all the way down to 43.5. a 38% difference there. I think there's still value there. Dual action on the LA Rams versus Cleveland under. From 51 down to 49, 95% of the money is on the under there. Dual action on that. The books are hoping for some points on that one. Miami versus Dallas under 47.5. A 37% difference on that one. Another huge spread with an under bet. Pittsburgh versus San Francisco over 44. A 33% difference. Looks like they expect some points in that Pittsburgh versus San Fran game. Sharps do. 33% difference. And that's all we have for podcast 49, my friends. If you have any questions or like us to break a game down for this week or even next week, please tweet us at the Oddsbreakers. Send us a message at contact us at the Oddsbreakers. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. Keep it rolling and go get some winners.